Welcome to our deep dive into the Singularity, Humanity's Last Invention.
Okay.
It's a guidebook by Srinidhi Ranganathan. Mm-hmm. You might know him as the human AI.
I've heard of him. Yeah.
This guy, he's not just talking about the singularity, he's out there working on it, actively shaping the future.
So what's he working on?
Well, he's doing some cutting edge work on something called Sun Intelligence 4.0. The goal, creating a super robot, a super intelligent entity formed from, get this, millions of intelligent machines.
Wow. That's ambitious.
It is. And he lays it all out in this book. What's impressive is that he doesn't just throw this complex stuff at you.
Yeah.
He makes it, understandable.
So he starts with the basics, like what exactly is artificial intelligence?
Yeah, he does a fantastic job of laying that groundwork. You really get a clear sense of how AI has evolved.
Okay, so like from where to where?
From those early symbolic methods all the way to the sophisticated machine learning we're seeing today.
And he makes a distinction, right, between narrow AI and general AI.
He does. Narrow AI is like your voice assistant designed for a specific task.
Right.
But general AI, that's where things get really interesting. We're talking about AI that could potentially reason and learn, just like a human.
Okay, so like think for itself.
Exactly. Solve complex problems, maybe even innovate. It's kind of like science fiction becoming reality.
I can see why you'd call this guy the human AI.
Right. And he explains all the core concepts that are driving us towards that potential future.
Yeah.
Things like machine learning, neural networks, and natural language processing.
What are some pretty dense topics.
They are. But he brings them to life. He uses real-world examples so you don't get lost in the technical jargon.
So like what kind of examples?
Like think about how your email filters out spam.
Okay, yeah.
That's supervised learning in action. An algorithm has been trained on tons of data labeled as spam or not spam, and it uses that knowledge to decide what to do with your incoming messages.
Oh, I see, yeah. So the algorithm's learning from labeled data and then using that to make decisions. What about unsupervised learning?
Unsupervised learning? Well, think about those personalized recommendations you get online.
Ah, got it. Like when Amazon suggests things you might like?
Exactly. That's often unsupervised learning at work. The algorithm's analyzing your behavior, grouping you with similar customers, and then recommending products based on those patterns.
So it's finding patterns on its own without being explicitly told what to look for.
Yeah, pretty impressive, right? And then there's reinforcement learning.
Mm-hmm.
That's how those self-driving cars are navigating our roads. They learn through trial and error. Make a good decision, get rewarded. Make a bad one, well, get penalized.
So they're kind of like learning from experience, just like we do.
Exactly. And as they gain more experience, they get better at making decisions in complex situations.
It's amazing how far AI has come. But, all this talk about AI learning and making decisions, it does raise some concerns, doesn't it?
It does. And Ranganathan doesn't shy away from that. He actually delves into the ethical concerns surrounding AI. Things like privacy, potential job displacement. He acknowledges that these are real issues that we need to address.
It's refreshing to see an author who's not just gung-ho about the technology, but actually thinking about the broader implications.
Yeah, he's clearly not just a tech enthusiast. He's deeply concerned about the potential impact on society, which I think is really important.
Okay, so we've covered the basics of AI. What else does Ranganathan dive into?
Well, he really gets into the nitty-gritty of neural networks.
Neural networks.
Yeah, he compares them to the human brain, which is a brilliant analogy. It helps you understand how these complex systems learn and make decisions.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So how does he break it down?
He starts by explaining the structure of a neural network. He talks about the input layer, where the data goes in, the hidden layers where the magic happens, and the output layer, where we see the results. He even touches on the mathematical equations involved, but he keeps it pretty high level, so you don't need a PhD in math to follow along.
That's good because math is not my strong suit, so he makes it accessible even for people who aren't, super technical.
That's what I like about his writing. He finds that sweet spot between being informative and accessible. He doesn't dumb it down, but he doesn't make you feel like you need a computer science degree to understand it either.
So what kind of neural networks are out there?
He talks about all sorts, from feed-forward networks, which are good for straightforward tasks, to convolutional networks, which are amazing for image recognition.
Image recognition, like facial recognition on my phone.
Exactly. That's a convolutional network at work, analyzing images and identifying patterns in real time. That's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it.
It is. And what about those networks that can like predict the next word you're going to type?
Oh, those are recurrent networks. They're great for sequential data like text or speech. It's amazing how they can process information over time, just like our own brains do.
And then there are those, what are they called? GANs?
GANs, yeah, those are generative adversarial networks.
Those are the ones that can create like deep fakes.
Yep, they can create incredibly realistic data, images, videos, even audio. It's both amazing and a little unsettling, isn't it?
It is. It's like AI is becoming a master artist, creating things that we once thought were exclusively human.
Right. It's both exciting and thought-provoking. And Ranganathan does a great job of making you think about the possibilities, but positive and potentially negative. But he doesn't just stop at, the basics of AI and neural networks. He takes us even further into the realm of superintelligence.
Superintelligence. Now we're talking. What exactly does that mean?
Superintelligence is AI that surpasses human intelligence in every single domain.
Wow. So like smarter than any human in every way.
Yeah. Imagine AI that can innovate technologies we haven't even dreamed of. AI that can optimize every single process, solve problems that have stumped humans for centuries.
It's almost hard to fathom. But if AI becomes that intelligent, wouldn't it just like keep getting smarter and smarter?
That's what Ranganathan talks about. He calls it an intelligence explosion. AI becomes capable of designing even more intelligent AI, creating this cascade of ever-increasing intelligence.
It's mind-boggling to think about where that could lead us, but also a little scary, to be honest.
It is, and that's why Ranganathan emphasizes a crucial question. How do we align superintelligence with human values?
Right, because if it's smarter than us in every way, how do we make sure it's still working for our benefit?
Exactly. It's like, giving a toddler the keys to a spaceship. We need to make sure this incredibly powerful technology understands the rules of the road, so to speak.
I like that analogy. So we need to figure out how to control something that might be way smarter than us. That seems like a pretty big challenge.
It is. But Ranganathan doesn't just focus on the potential risks. He also explores this really intriguing concept: human-machine symbiosis.
Symbiosis, so like working together.
More than that. It's like a partnership, a new kind of relationship where humans and machines leverage each other's strengths.
Okay, so instead of fearing AI, we embrace it as a partner.
I like that.
Yeah.
How would that work in practice?
Well, he breaks it down into two key aspects. First, there's cognitive enhancement.
Cognitive enhancement? What?
Think about brain-computer interfaces, those BCIs you hear about. They could allow us to perform tasks that are currently impossible.
So like what? Give me an example.
Imagine a paralyzed patient using a BCI to type with their thoughts.
Wow. That's incredible. So we could overcome our physical limitations with technology.
Exactly. And then there's operational synergy. Humans and machines working together seamlessly, each contributing their unique skills.
Like a team.
Yeah, like a superpower team. Okay, I'm getting the picture. So instead of one replacing the other, it's about finding ways to collaborate and enhance each other's abilities.
Exactly. Ranganathan really challenges us to think differently about the relationship between humans and machines. It's not about one being superior to the other, it's about a new kind of partnership.
That's a much more optimistic way to look at it. But are there any potential downsides to this kind of integration?
Of course. With any powerful technology, there are ethical questions to consider. Autonomy, control, privacy, identity. These are all things we need to carefully think about as we move towards a more integrated future.
So it's not just about the technology itself, it's about how we use it and the potential consequences.
Exactly. And Ranganathan doesn't shy away from those tough questions. He acknowledges the potential downsides, but he also highlights the incredible opportunities. He wants us to be aware of both sides of the coin.
It sounds like he's given us a lot to think about already, and we've only scratched the surface.
We have. He goes on to talk about the exponential growth of technology, things like Moore's Law, and how that might lead to even more rapid advancement in the future. And then he dives deep into the ethical considerations, things like AI governance, and how we can ensure that these powerful technologies are used for good.
Wow. We've got a lot more ground to cover, This Ranganathan guy sounds like he's thought about everything.
He really has.
Yeah.
His guidebook is like a roadmap for navigating this uncharted territory. It's essential reading for anyone who wants to understand the future. We're heading toward, a potential of the singularity. And we're going to cover all of that and more in this deep dive.
I'm ready. Let's keep going. It's interesting. This whole idea of technological growth, Ranganathan actually challenges us to think beyond Moore's law.
Moore's law, right? That's the one that says computing power doubles every 2 years, right?
Exactly. And it's been pretty accurate for decades, but it's based on the physical limits of transistors.
Okay.
And we're getting close to those limits. So where do we go from there?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, if Moore's law is hitting a wall, does that mean technological progress is slowing down?
Not necessarily. Ranganathan argues that new paradigms like quantum computing could completely change the game.
Quantum computing. He really piqued my interest with that one. I mean, I know it's supposed to be this incredibly powerful technology, but to be honest, it's always sounded kind of like science fiction to me.
It can be hard to wrap your head around, but it's based on some real mind-bending physics.
Okay, so try to break it down for me.
Well, in classical computing, you have bits, which can be either 0 or 1. Think of it like a light switch. It's either on or off.
Got it.
But in quantum computing, you have qubits. And a qubit can be 0, 1, or both at the same time.
Wait, both at the same time? How's that even possible?
That's the magic of quantum mechanics, which governs the behavior of particles at the atomic and subatomic level. It's called superposition. Imagine a coin spinning in the air. It's both heads and tails until it lands. That's kind of like what a qubit is doing.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it, but it's definitely a stretch for my brain. So we've got these qubits that can be in multiple states at once. What does that actually mean in terms of computing power?
It means they can perform calculations in parallel, exploring many possibilities simultaneously. So a quantum computer can tackle problems that would take a classical computer, even a supercomputer, billions of years to solve.
Wow. So we're talking about a completely different scale of computing power here.
Exactly. And Ranganathan gives this great example of factoring a massive number. A classical computer could take centuries, but a quantum computer using Shor's algorithm could do it in minutes.
Shor's algorithm?
Yeah, it's a quantum algorithm specifically designed for factoring numbers. It's one of the reasons quantum computing is seen as such a potential game changer, especially in fields like cryptography, which relies on the difficulty of factoring large numbers.
Right, because if a quantum computer can break encryption that easily, that could have huge implications for, well, everything.
Absolutely. And Ranganathan doesn't just focus on the potential benefits. He also addresses the potential downsides of this accelerated technological growth.
Like what?
Well, he talks about the possibility of economic disruption, job displacement being a major concern.
Right, because if machines can do everything better and faster, what happens to the human workforce?
Exactly. And he suggests potential solutions like universal basic income, where everyone receives a guaranteed income regardless of whether they have a job or not.
It's interesting to think about how we might need to restructure our entire economic system in the face of such rapid technological change.
And he also emphasizes the need for ethical guidelines as we move closer to ASI.
ASI, right? Artificial superintelligence. So it's not just about making sure the technology works, it's about making sure it's used for good.
Exactly. We need to be prepared, both technologically and ethically, for what lies ahead. Ranganathan's book is a call to action. He's urging us to think about these issues now, before it's too late.
It's like we're standing on the edge of a new era, and we need to be prepared for what's coming.
Exactly. And on that note, he dedicates a whole chapter to the ethical implications of ASI.
This is where things get really interesting, beyond the technical stuff.
Right, we're talking about the philosophical questions, the big picture stuff.
Exactly. Ranganathan dives into deep philosophical questions about the nature of consciousness, personhood. What does it even mean to be human in a world where machines might surpass us in every way?
Yeah, it's like we're redefining what it means to be human.
And then there are the practical concerns about power and control. Ranganathan gives this chilling example of an ASI manipulating global financial markets. I mean, who controls that kind of power? How do we prevent it from being misused?
It's a scary thought, for sure. I mean, our current systems of government, they might not be equipped to handle the challenges of superintelligence.
Exactly. And that's why Ranganathan highlights the urgent need for AI governance. He explores different frameworks for managing this, from ethical guidelines to regulatory bodies, even public-private partnerships. So it's not just about building the technology, it's about building the guardrails, so to speak.
Right. We need to start thinking about this now, before it's too late. We need to develop clear rules of the road for ASI, ensuring its development aligns with human values.
It's like with any powerful technology, you need to have some sort of control mechanism, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, things can go very wrong very quickly.
Exactly. And the more powerful the technology, the more important those control mechanisms become.
So we've got the ethical considerations, the governance issues. What else does Ranganathan cover?
Well, he dedicates a fascinating chapter to future predictions. It's like a glimpse into a world transformed by ASI.
Okay, so what does he see happening? I mean, does he think ASI is going to save us or destroy us?
He's not all doom and gloom, that's for sure. He predicts that ASI could help us solve some of humanity's biggest challenges, like climate change, disease eradication.
Okay, so there's the potential for good. But what about the potential downsides? I mean, we've talked about job displacement, the risks of misuse. Is there anything else we should be worried about?
Well, he acknowledges those risks, but he also reminds us that technology is a tool. Like any tool, it can be used for good or bad. It depends on us, on the choices we make.
So we have a responsibility to guide the development of this technology in a positive direction.
Absolutely. We can't just sit back and let things happen. We need to be proactive. We need to be thoughtful.
It's like we're at a fork in the road, and we have to choose which path we want to take.
Exactly. And Ranganathan's book is like a map, helping us navigate the choices ahead.
It's a lot to take in, but it's exciting too. I mean, to think about the potential of these technologies, it's mind-blowing.
It is. And then, just when you think you've wrapped your head around everything, he introduces another mind-blowing concept: transhumanism.
Transhumanism. That's the idea of using technology to enhance ourselves, right?
Exactly. Ranganathan sees it as a way for humans to evolve alongside AI, using technology to overcome our limitations, whether those limitations are physical, cognitive, or even related to lifespan.
So instead of fearing AI, we merge with it. We become superhuman.
In a sense, yes. Ranganathan explores the idea of human-machine symbiosis, where we integrate technology into our very being.
I mean, that's some next level stuff, but it also raises a lot of ethical questions, doesn't it?
It does. And Ranganathan acknowledges those concerns. He talks about the potential for inequality, the loss of human dignity, if these enhancements are only available to the wealthy or the elite.
Right. It's like, who gets to decide what it means to be human in a world where we can fundamentally alter ourselves with technology?
It's a big question, and there's no easy answer. But Ranganathan presents these ideas in a way that encourages thoughtful discussion. He wants us to grapple with these issues, to have these conversations now before it's too late.
It's fascinating and a little scary, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about fundamentally changing what it means to be human.
It is, but it's also incredibly exciting. We're on the cusp of a new era, and the possibilities are limitless.
It's a lot to process. But I feel like Ranganathan has given us a framework for understanding these complex issues.
Yeah.
And just when you think he's covered everything, he throws another curveball. AI consciousness.
AI consciousness. So we're not just talking about intelligent machines, we're talking about machines that are actually aware.
That's what he explores. I mean, can machines truly become conscious? And if so, what does that mean for us? What are our obligations to a machine that might be as conscious as we are?
It's a question that philosophers have been debating for centuries, but now, with the rapid advancement of AI, it's becoming a real practical concern.
Right. It's no longer just a thought experiment. We might actually have to face this dilemma in the not-too-distant future.
Ranganathan doesn't just speculate, though. He dives into different theoretical approaches to AI consciousness. He talks about functionalism, integrated information theory. He even discusses the ethical and philosophical implications of AI consciousness, like, would conscious machine have rights? Would it be considered a person?
It's a mind-blowing concept. I mean, it challenges everything we think we know about consciousness and what it means to be human.
And then he shifts gears again, taking us into the world of robotics, which is becoming increasingly integrated into our lives.
Robotics. So we're talking about like robots in factories.
It's more than that. Ranganathan paints a picture of a future where robots are everywhere. Autonomous vehicles navigating our streets, domestic robots managing our homes, even medical robots performing surgeries with precision beyond human capability.
So robots are going to be our coworkers, our housekeepers, our surgeons. It's fascinating and a little unnerving, to be honest.
I know what you mean. It's a lot of change to wrap your head around, but Ranganathan explores both the positive and negative implications of this robotic integration.
So, what are some of the potential benefits?
Well, he talks about increased efficiency, safety. Imagine a world with no car accidents because all the vehicles are driven by AI. Or think about robots taking care of elderly or disabled people, providing personalized care around the clock.
Okay, so I can see the potential for good there, but what about the downsides?
Well, there are the obvious concerns about job displacement.
Right. If robots are doing all the jobs, what happens to the human workforce?
Exactly. And he also talks about the ethical considerations, like who's responsible if a robot malfunctions and causes harm.
And what about the data privacy issues? I mean, if robots are collecting data on us all the time, who has access to that information? And how is it being used?
Those are all valid concerns. And Ranganathan stresses the need for robust regulations and ethical guidelines to govern robotics development, ensuring that these machines are safe, reliable, and used for the benefit of humanity.
Sounds like we're going to need some serious ethical and legal frameworks to navigate this robotic future.
Absolutely. We can't just let the technology run wild. We need to be thoughtful and deliberate in how we integrate robotics into society.
It's a lot to think about for sure. So we've got robots, AI consciousness, the ethical implications of superintelligence. Anything else?
He also takes us on a deep dive into the world of advanced algorithms.
Algorithms. Okay, so remind me, what exactly is an algorithm?
Think of an algorithm as a set of instructions for solving a problem, like a recipe for a computer. Advanced algorithms go beyond traditional programming. They can adapt, learn from minimal data, even make autonomous decisions.
So they're like super smart computer programs that can think for themselves.
In a way, yes. And Ranganathan talks about all sorts of fascinating algorithms: neural networks, reinforcement learning, evolutionary algorithms. These are the algorithms that are driving the development of ASI.
So these are the building blocks of superintelligence.
Exactly. And he gives specific examples like convolutional neural networks for image processing and Q-learning, which is a reinforcement learning algorithm that seeks the best action given a particular situation.
It's incredible to think about the complexity of these algorithms and how they're constantly evolving, getting more and more sophisticated.
It is. And Ranganathan doesn't shy away from the theoretical implications. He acknowledges that these advanced algorithms challenge our very understanding of intelligence. They blur the line between human and machine, raising ethical questions about accountability and control.
It's like, we're not just making computers faster, we're fundamentally changing how we think about intelligence itself.
Exactly. And that leads us to another crucial topic that Ranganathan explores: data processing.
Data processing. Okay, so that's basically just computers crunching numbers, right?
It's more than that, especially in the age of ASI. Data is the lifeblood of these systems. It's how they learn, adapt, and make decisions. Ranganathan describes how data processing has evolved, from manual tabulation to digital computers, real-time processing. And then he takes us further, explaining how ASI takes data processing to a whole new level.
So how does ASI change the game when it comes to data processing?
Well, he talks about ASI systems autonomously processing vast amounts of data, identifying patterns, and making decisions without human intervention.
It's like having a brain that can analyze the entire internet in seconds.
Exactly. And while this opens up incredible opportunities, Ranganathan acknowledges the challenges too.
Like what?
Well, privacy and security are major concerns, as is the ethical implication of autonomous decision-making. Who's accountable when an AI system makes a decision that has a negative impact?
Right. What about the environmental impact? I mean, all this data processing requires a lot of energy. We're talking about massive data centers consuming huge amounts of power.
He addresses that too. He talks about the need for sustainable practices, energy-efficient algorithms. It's about finding a balance between the power of ASI and the need for ethical and sustainable practices.
It's a reminder that we can't just focus on the technological advancements. We need to consider the broader implications, the impact on society and the environment.
And then he tackles a topic that's on everyone's mind: automation.
Automation. That's a word that often evokes fear and uncertainty. I mean, are robots going to take all our jobs?
It's a valid concern, and Ranganathan doesn't sugarcoat it. He acknowledges that AI-driven automation will undoubtedly impact the future of work.
So what does he say about the future of work?
Well, he points out that traditional jobs, both physical and cognitive, are increasingly being handled by machines. He gives the example of AI-powered customer service systems that are replacing human representatives. It's something we're already seeing happening today.
Right. I mean, how many times have you called a company and ended up talking to a chatbot instead of a real person?
Exactly. And it's only going to become more common as AI gets more sophisticated.
So are we all going to be out of jobs?
Ranganathan doesn't offer any easy answers. He explores the complex economic and societal implications of automation. He discusses potential solutions like universal basic income, the need for policies to manage the transition. He also highlights the potential rise of creative industries, where human skills like imagination and emotional intelligence will be in high demand.
So it's not just about losing jobs, it's about reshaping the entire concept of work.
Exactly. It's a call to adapt, to evolve, to embrace new ways of thinking about work and value creation.
It's a lot to process, but it's also exciting in a way. I mean, to think about the potential for human creativity and innovation in a world where machines are doing all the routine tasks.
I agree. It's a challenge, but it's also an opportunity.
And from automation, Ranganathan takes us to an even broader perspective. Societal changes.
This is where he really gets into the big picture stuff. He explores how ASI could impact every aspect of our lives, from employment and economic structures to governance, decision-making, even our very sense of identity.
So we're talking about a fundamental shift in how society operates.
Exactly. He paints a picture of a world where traditional models might no longer apply. Imagine ASI-assisted or even led policymaking. Algorithmic governance that optimizes resource allocation or addresses climate change.
So AI making decisions that affect our lives, that's a pretty radical idea.
It is, and it raises important questions about transparency, accountability, the role of human oversight. Who's in control when AI is making the decisions? How do we ensure that these systems are aligned with human values?
It's a lot of responsibility. And it's not clear that we have all the answers yet.
That's why Ranganathan stresses the importance of having these conversations now, of being proactive and shaping the future. We can't just let technology dictate the terms. We need to be deliberate and thoughtful in how we integrate ASI into society.
And amid all this talk of technological advancement, he brings us back to the human element. He explores the potential impact of ASI on human identity and evolution, even revisiting the idea of transhumanism and the possibility of a human ASI symbiosis.
It raises some profound questions. What does it mean to be human in an age of superintelligence? Could we merge with machines, enhancing our cognitive and physical capabilities, even achieving a form of digital immortality?
It sounds like science fiction, but these are questions we might actually have to confront in the not-too-distant future.
Exactly. And Ranganathan encourages us to think about these questions seriously, to consider the ethical implications, to have a dialogue about what kind of future we want to create. He makes it clear that the future is not predetermined. It's up to us to decide what path we want to take.
It's a lot to take in, but it's also incredibly exciting. We're on the verge of a new era, an era where technology has the potential to reshape everything we know about ourselves and the world around us. And just when you think he's covered everything, he throws another mind-blowing concept into the mix. Mind uploading. Mind uploading. It sounds like something straight out of, a sci-fi movie. Is he talking about like transferring our consciousness into a computer?
That's exactly it. Ranganathan really dives deep into this concept of whole brain emulation, where basically your entire brain is scanned and then replicated in a digital form.
I mean, I can barely wrap my head around that. Is there like any actual scientific basis for this, or is it just pure speculation?
It's definitely still on the speculative side, but Ranganathan grounds his discussion in real science. He talks about the progress that's being made in brain mapping technologies and the challenges of actually simulating the incredibly intricate workings of neurons and their connections. He even mentions the Hodgkin-Huxley model.
The Hodgkin-Huxley model?
Yeah, it's like a simplified example of how we can mathematically represent the activity of a single neuron. So, it's a starting point.
It's fascinating to think about just how complex the brain is,
right?
And the challenges of actually replicating it digitally. I mean, it makes you realize just how much we still don't know about how the brain actually works.
Absolutely. And Ranganathan doesn't shy away from those challenges. He discusses the immense computational power that would be required for something like mind uploading. He even talks about how technologies like, quantum computing or neuromorphic computing might be necessary to make it a reality.
So it's not something we're going to see anytime soon.
Probably not, but it's a possibility that we need to start considering, if it were to become a reality.
Okay, so let's say hypothetically mind uploading does become possible. What are the implications? I mean, what does that mean for, humanity?
That's where things get really, really interesting. Ranganathan dives into some deep philosophical questions about mind uploading. Would a digital copy of your brain truly retain your identity and consciousness? Would it be you in any meaningful sense? And what about the societal implications of, potential digital immortality? Could we create a world where death is no longer inevitable?
It's almost too much to process. Like, it makes you rethink everything you thought you knew about life and death and what it means to be human.
Exactly. Ranganathan presents these questions as a challenge to our current understanding of consciousness, identity, the nature of reality itself. He's encouraging us to, really think critically and have an open dialogue about these transformative possibilities. And, he doesn't stop there. He takes us even further into the realm of what might seem impossible with this deep dive into quantum computing.
Quantum computing, okay, so we're not just talking about replicating the human brain. Now we're talking about computers that operate on the principles of quantum mechanics.
Right. It's like going from, riding a bicycle to traveling at warp speed. He presents quantum computing as this completely revolutionary technology that could, reshape computation as we know it. And he does a really fantastic job of explaining the difference between classical computing, which uses bits that can be either a 0 or a 1, and quantum computing, which utilizes qubits that can be in multiple states at the same time, all thanks to this very strange concept of superposition.
Superposition. Okay, so that's the idea that a qubit can be both 0 and 1 at the same time, right? Like that spinning corn analogy. It's still a bit hard to grasp, but I think I'm starting to get it.
It's definitely mind-bending. He also goes into entanglement, where two qubits are linked, no matter how far apart they are. If you change one, the other changes instantly. It's as if they're communicating faster than the speed of light, defying our classical understanding of physics.
Quantum mechanics, I gotta say, it's a wild ride. But Ranganathan does a pretty good job of explaining it in a way that's, somewhat understandable, even for those of us who aren't, quantum physicists.
Right. He doesn't just talk about the theory either. He highlights the practical implications of quantum computing.
Like what? What kind of impact could it have?
He talks about how it could revolutionize fields like cryptography, drug discovery, material science, potentially even our understanding of the universe itself. He brings up Shor's algorithm as an example.
Shor's algorithm. Okay.
Yeah, it's this quantum algorithm that could potentially break the encryption that we use for, everything. Online banking, secure communications. It's a bit of a wake-up call, showing how quantum computing could be a double-edged sword.
So on the one hand, we have the potential for incredible advancements, but on the other hand, we have the potential for, really serious threats.
Exactly. And Ranganathan emphasizes this need to carefully consider both the ethical and societal implications of quantum computing. We need to develop regulations, guidelines, make sure this technology is used responsibly.
It's like every time we open up a new frontier in technology, we also open up a new frontier of ethical challenges.
It's true. And with quantum computing, those challenges are particularly complex. He makes it clear that we need to be proactive, in shaping the future of this technology.
Okay, so we've got mind uploading, quantum computing. This is a lot to process. What else does Ranganathan cover in this guidebook?
Well, he also dedicates a chapter to the cybersecurity challenges that we'll face in the age of ASI.
Cybersecurity. So like hacking and data breaches, how does ASI change the game when it comes to cybersecurity?
Well, he talks about how ASI could be used to create incredibly sophisticated cyber attacks, threats that we can barely even imagine today. Traditional cybersecurity measures might be completely inadequate against an AI-powered adversary.
So we're going to need a whole new approach to cybersecurity.
Exactly. He advocates for moving towards more dynamic AI-powered defenses that can learn and evolve in real time.
So basically fighting fire with fire.
In a way, yes, but he also highlights the importance of trust and verification. How do we know that these AI-powered defenses are actually doing what they're supposed to be doing? How do we prevent them from being turned against us?
Right, because if we're relying on AI to protect us from AI, we need to be absolutely sure that those AI systems are on our side.
Exactly. And he stresses the need for, ethical considerations, robust regulations. We need to make sure that AI, both offensive and defensive, operates within clear moral and legal boundaries.
It sounds like we're going to need some serious international cooperation to navigate this new landscape of AI-powered threats and defenses.
Absolutely. It's a global challenge, and it requires a global response.
Yeah.
And then finally, Ranganathan takes us on a journey into the heart of, I guess you could call it the philosophical core of the singularity.
Okay, the philosophical core. What does that even mean?
It's where he challenges us to, really confront some of the most fundamental questions that humanity has ever faced. Questions about the nature of consciousness, free will, determinism, the moral and ethical implications of creating machines that might, actually rival or even exceed our own intelligence.
It's a lot to grapple with for sure, but I guess these are questions we can't afford to ignore, right?
Right. And he even pushes us to think about the meaning of life, human purpose in a world where machines might be able to solve all our problems, even achieve a form of immortality.
It's like he's asking us to redefine what it means to be human in the age of superintelligence.
Exactly. His book is more than just a prediction of the future. It's a call to action. He urges us to engage in this thoughtful discussion to really think about these issues.
And I mean, to be fair, he doesn't provide all the answers, right?
No, he doesn't. But he gives us a framework for asking the right questions, for approaching these challenges with wisdom and foresight. He makes it clear that the future isn't, set in stone. It's something that we create through the choices that we make today.
So we're not just passive observers, we're active participants in shaping the future.
Exactly. And that's a powerful message. It gives us agency, in a world that can often feel overwhelming and unpredictable.
This has been an incredible deep dive. Ranganathan's Guidebook is, it's truly thought-provoking. It covers so much ground, and it really does make you think about the future in a whole new way.
I agree. I mean, it's essential reading for anyone who wants to understand where we're headed, the potential of the singularity and, what it means for humanity.
So as we stand on the cusp of this technological revolution, it's important to remember that we have a choice. We could be swept along by the current, or we can, actively shakes the future, using our knowledge, our wisdom, our values to guide us.
Well said. It's a journey that we're all on together, and it's a journey that demands our full attention, our creativity, our compassion.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the Singularity, humanity's last invention. It's been a fascinating, and I have to say, a little mind-bending exploration of the future. And until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep shaping the future.